I am currently beginning the drive back home to Tulsa, Oklahoma, after the American Atheists National Convention in Oklahoma City. So it's about a 90-mile trek up the turnpike. And rather than, just sit here and listen to music or more podcasts, I thought maybe I'd make a podcast, kind of a podcast on the road. So I safely set up the camera and wired myself for sound, and traffic's not bad. It's almost all highway. And I figured I'd just do kind of a recap of the weekend and give you something else to watch and or listen to if you wanted. You'll have to forgive the traffic noise. I thought since I was leaving Oklahoma City, I was further into the city, closer to downtown, I was going to do a deal where every time I saw a church, I would just go, church, because there's so many of them here. I mean, I live in a state where one of the first three questions they ask you is, what's your name, what do you do for a living, where do you go to church, right? And the roads will get better, I promise. So I just thought, every time I see a church, I'll just go, church. But I'm actually out near the beginning of a turnpike entrance, which is a pretty dull stretch of highway, about 90 miles of highway with nothing but grass and billboards and the occasional, highway cross to look at. But the conference itself, Hugh Laurie, who played house, Hugh Laurie was the keynote speaker. And I'd never met Hugh Laurie, and I was so excited about the opportunity to possibly get to meet him. And you'd think that that'd be guaranteed for me because I'm a speaker, but it's not. It's not guaranteed that I would get a chance to shake his hand. You just never know. I was hoping. And it was Friday night. I was hanging out in the hotel lobby with some friends. Natalie was with me. We had Henry and Rad Dog. We were just chilling. And I happened to look over my shoulder, and Kim Abel from American Atheists walks in the hotel door, and with her is Hugh Laurie. And of course I'm like, hey honey, it's Hugh Laurie. And he just walked right by me, and I just, what a surreal life that I have. This guy just sort of cruises right by. I'm this close to house. And I heard him speak the next day on stage. Delightful man, delightful speaker. Amazing timing and talent, and so generous with his heart. And there was a dinner that night that I couldn't attend, and I found out right before the dinner that I couldn't attend that my seat at the dinner at American Atheists was next to Hugh Laurie. And I had missed my opportunity, not just to meet him and shake his hand, but to hang with Hugh Laurie, just hang out, talk to him, shoot the shit, enjoy the evening, just me hanging with Hugh. And but I'd made a previous commitment, and one that I wanted to honor, and I'm glad I did. But I mean, I was just in some ways heartbroken. I was like, I was so close. And they were very restrictive about photographs and other things. I mean, he's a big star, and I guess there were some conditions in place. I don't know if that's him or American Atheists or somebody else. And it was the next day. It was Sunday afternoon. The conference had finished. Getting on the turnpike. Hopefully the roads will improve. Less bounce, less chaos for you, the listener and viewer. But we had an amazing moment where attendees, and there were 850 people at the convention. An overwhelming success. Oklahomans and people coming from adjacent states, people coming. I think there's some people from Canada there. I mean, it's amazing. And they came just for the American Atheists National Convention. And at the end of the convention, one of the things we were going to do was to pack 30,000 meals for needy people in Oklahoma to feed disadvantaged people. And, you pack these meals where it's like a family-sized mac and cheese and a bunch of other stuff, and you put it all together, and you can distribute these en masse relatively inexpensively. And so rather than us just getting together as atheists to bitch about religion, which is something that atheists are very good at, what about the humanism? What about reaching out and helping other people? That's also what I want to be about as an activist. We can curse the darkness, but let's spread some light, man. And so it was a great fit. We all get hundreds of people get in this room, and we have our hair nets on. We have these aprons on and we have our gloves on, and they're warning us, if you pick up your cell phone to take a photograph, you must go to the front of the room and use the antibacterial lotion, and you must get new gloves because phones are disgusting. This is how they framed it. And so we're all in there. The enthusiasm's contagious. And there's a slot, an open slot right in front of my table, and it's an assembly line, right? So you have people over here, and they're getting all the main ingredients with big scoops, and they scoop it into a funnel, and it goes into a bag with some other stuff. And then my job was to weigh the bag. I'm the bag weigher. And my bag was supposed to weigh between 352 and 354 grams, period. I had to scoop things in and out to make sure it was properly proportioned, right? And then after I get the bag properly proportioned, then I give it to someone else, and they seal the bag, and someone else puts a label on it, and they do this, and they do that, and they box it all up. And there's a huge system. 30,000 meals done in just a few hours, if that. It's really amazing to see it done. And so there's this opening, this slot, on the table across from me. And Hugh Laurie comes in the room, and he puts on his hairnet, and he puts on his apron, and he puts on his gloves, and he takes the slot right across from me. And for an hour and a half, I packed meals for disadvantaged people, or I weighed meals for disadvantaged people with Hugh Laurie. And I'm pinching myself the whole time, going, how does this happen? How did I get here? How did this once Christian broadcaster, true blue Jesus believer, who was born and bred for ministry, destined for great things in the name of Jesus Christ, how did I end up not only speaking at the American Atheists National Convention, and by the way, that live audience broadcast is going to release in a week, less than a week. It'll next Tuesday it comes out, which the date would be, let's see, today the 2nd, 3rd, it'll be the 10th of April, and after you can find it on Blog Talk Radio and YouTube. The video is on YouTube. I'm like, how did I get here? And I am now a part of an atheist effort to do humanistic work, and I am standing across from one of the most well-known television celebrities, comedians, musicians, Renaissance men in that way, on planet Earth. What did they say when they introduced him? At one point, he was the most well-known television personality, like in the world. I think back when House was at its peak of popularity, Hugh Laurie was the most recognizable TV personality in the world, and I'm standing right next to the guy. No pretense, no bullshit. He was funny. He was generous. I think he may not have known what to expect, right? I think he may have walked in the door wondering, what have I got myself into? I'm glad to be here, but what is this thing? And he saw so much goodwill, and he saw so much... Oh, that's my wife. Hang on. Take a break. Splice it, because this is between us. I'll call you back. Sorry about that. I didn't want to be like, hey, Natalie, you're on the radio. I just didn't want to do that. So, I was talking about Hugh Laurie and how he was so genuine. Is that right? Genuine and kind and all those things. And then when we were done, we all cheered each other. We cheered the effort, of 30,000 meals done. And we had these gloves on our hands. So, instead of shaking hands, I didn't get a chance to shake Hugh Laurie's hand, but we did the elbow bump, just bang, because that's all we could manage. What a tremendous guy. Sometimes when you meet celebrities, and I understand to a degree, if they're pawed at all the time, they can't go anywhere, they have no privacy, no anonymity. I understand that, they have to draw boundaries. I get that. But from time to time, you will meet celebrities, and they just seem inconvenienced by the fact that they're rich and famous. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens sometimes. And then you walk away with kind of a sour taste in your mouth, like, Yeah, I know it's a pain in the ass to be hounded by everybody you meet because they love your work or they have an opinion about your work or they want to talk about episode 113 of House or whatever, But, at the same time, you never lose the perspective. You never lose the realization that you are so incredibly fortunate to be able to have that and to achieve that and then that people have so much goodwill, And with Hugh, there was no pretense. There was just him. He was cracking jokes, and he and Silverman were sitting there in the food line, just like talking. They were like change the world shit. They were talking about. I told him I wish I had a microphone. It's like macaroni and philosophy is what it was going on. Right? And they talked about all kind of stuff, everything from Trump to Brexit to Judaism. They got into Judaism, Is Judaism, and I asked the question, is Judaism a religion or faith tradition, or is it a race? And of course, this starts another, because Silverman's, got a Jewish heritage, and he goes off, it's like it's a religion. And then before you know it, 10 minutes have passed. And then Hugh would just crack a joke, a very clever joke out of the clear blue, and everyone would laugh. And I was really struck by, the privilege of being able to do that kind of thing. And so anyway, after a great weekend, I'm on the road home. I have my coffee. I can't decide if having this as a quote-unquote habit is a blessing or a curse. Tell you what, I used to not drink coffee. It was 20 years ago. I was looking for a house. We were house shopping, and my realtor was a coffee drinker, but he drank that stuff from convenience stores, where you go in and you put it under the little fountain, and then the powder and the water comes out. And then you have to hold the cup under the fountain for another 15 seconds to make sure that it, it doesn't overflow, whatever. And it's just straight up sugar and fat, I'm sure, sugar. But I have a tremendous sweet tooth to a fault. I love sweet things. I would weigh 50 pounds less if I didn't love sweet things. I just love sugar and or Splenda, sweet things. I've been doing agave more recently. I don't know if that's better or worse. What the hell? I'm trying to moderate. I've tried to moderate, but I go into this convenience store and I walk up and it's like French vanilla cappuccino, and it's not like a cappuccino. It's powdered. And now I've got like mouth candy. I've got Java candy to help kickstart me as I make the rest of the drive home. But it tastes pretty good. You hear conflicting things about sugar. I know a lot of sugar is not bad for you. I've come to the point in my life, honestly, when it's all about moderation. You can abuse anything. Hell, you can eat too many fruits and vegetables, for Pete's sake. Moderation. Enjoy your life. Don't go overboard. Make sure you stay moderately healthy, but don't forget to treat yourself. Good advice. I just had the thought, if I get pulled over for speeding, and I doubt it, at 5 over the speed limit, but if I get pulled over for speeding, you think the Unholy Trinity shirt would guarantee that I get a citation in the state of Oklahoma? Of course, there is. I think it's an informed hypothesis, but I think there's a huge underground of atheists in this state. And, maybe the guy's an atheist going, hey, maybe he'll think Unholy Trinity is like a band or something. Yeah, I just want to. If I get pulled over, it'll be interesting. And then he'll see the cameras set up and wonder if I'll just tell him I work for the Discovery Channel. I think he'd buy that. I actually enjoy driving more than flying these days. I think it's because after you've spent, I don't know how many years in airports, there's something about hitting the road. I'm a big Audible.com guy. So I've got audiobooks. I've got the subscription, so I get a new one every month. And, in fact, I'm re-listening to one right now since I'm a Star Trek junkie. I'm a huge Trekkie. It's called The 50-Year Mission, and it's in 2 parts. The audiobook is in 2 parts, and I think combined, both parts of the audiobook are like 60 hours, a total 60 hours of listening, as they go back to 1966. And actually before, since the show was in development, go through the entire classic series, and then they go through Phase 2, which ended up being the motion picture, and the series of films, and the Next Generation, and all the other incarnations of Star Trek over the decades. And I mean, it's extremely thorough. Like, I don't know why you would need another Star Trek book about these particular shows after this one has been published. But the audiobook is really compelling. They have a series of voice actors and who come in, and they are. So you're not going to hear from Gene Roddenberry, but they have someone reading Gene's thoughts, written thoughts, or an interview that he had done about the show. And I mean, they go really deep, and it's interesting enough to me that I actually finished it. I skipped over DS9 and Voyager and part of Enterprise. Sorry, DS9 is Voyager, and I just never really watched Enterprise. And you want to know why I couldn't watch Enterprise? This is so shallow, probably. You want to know why I couldn't? Because I like what's his name, Scott Bakula. And I like the concept, I like the idea. I couldn't get past that fucking theme song. Oh, what's it called? It is like that song that they sang in the Star Wars holiday special. It's so out of place. It's so wrong. I couldn't get past the opening credit theme song. I couldn't watch the show. It killed it killed all 3 seasons. In fact, I'll never see them. But I went back and I downloaded and listened to again. I'd read it the first time, but it'd been many years. I just felt it was relevant. Orwell's 1984, which sounds a little bit cliche, I know, as people are talking about, Big Brother and doublethink. And, in the era of fake news, though, it just seemed really relevant. It just seemed like, we've got someone who's telling us, only trust Big Brother, and it's him. And as I went through the book again, I got the chills. I felt a little bit this way about The Handmaid's Tale. It is one of the most appropriately placed commentaries of the era that we live in. The Handmaid's Tale being a 10-part first season on Hulu. And if you haven't seen it, please drop everything and go watch it. I believe season 2 starts in a few months. I don't know what they're going to do, because I believe they exhausted the content of the book. A book which is so oddly written, by the way. Atwood's book is punctuated in a strange way. When characters are talking to each other, the sentences and the phrases they speak are not set off by quotation marks. It's all blended together. And anyone who's read the book will tell you that it's jarring at first, because as one character says this and another responds that, what they're saying is not set off by quotations. It's punctuated in a strange way. I'm sure there's a method to it. There's a reason for it. I'm sure somebody's already telling me why in the comments section. But I mean, the book's extremely well written, but the television series is immersive. It sucks you in. It does not let you go. It's 10 episodes of brilliance, and it is one of the best commentaries of our time. This theocratic, sort of a God and country narrative, patriarchal narrative that takes pride in stripping the rights away from people and stripping them of their identity and telling them to trust no one else and persecuting and prosecuting them under threat of death, torture and death for non-compliance. And you see how relevant it is to theocracies all around the world in the present day, and you see echoes of it in what this sort of evangelical Trumpism is with many of America's red state citizens. And I know that I'm going to catch a lot of flack because I'm dogging on Trump, and there are some Trump supporting atheists, not many, but there are. Look, I as a humanist cannot in any conscience support this man. And I feel I must speak against this man. And And then, of course, you see someone in the comment section and they say, well, I didn't sign on to that. I didn't subscribe to this page to talk politics. I wanted to talk about atheism. Which, I'm sorry, it's just stupid. Why don't you stick to atheism? Well, I guess, I started the podcast in 2010, the website in 2009. I suppose every week I could just open up the microphone and I could say, okay, folks, there is no evidence for any gods anywhere. And then turn the microphone off and go back to whatever I was doing. But religion affects every aspect of our life. Every aspect. Religion goes after everything. It starts, of course, with our identity and sexuality. It's taking up residence in the bedroom, telling people what they can and cannot do, the desires that they should and should not have, the actions that they must or must not partake in lest they be sinful. We see the evangelicals in the Republican Party. How am I not supposed to talk politics? Because God and country, quote-unquote, patriotism, a.k.a. blind nationalism, is everywhere. We've got the state of Florida putting in God We Trust signs. I think it's happening also in Arkansas, in public institutions like schools. You've got this sort of exercise, this exertion of Christian privilege. These people feel empowered by the current administration. You see the rights of LGBTQ people under attack. Well, I didn't sign on to this page to talk about social issues. I'm sorry. Defeating religion affects social issues. It just does. Actually, I'm not sorry. We're going to talk about how religious opposition to non-heterosexual marriage and marital rights has to be defeated. This is an atheism-related issue. We talk about abortion. We talk about the right of a woman to choose what happens to her own body. That's related to religion. It relates to atheism. We talk about the death penalty and how many people hold kind of an Old Testament justice view of how we should approach killers. We should kill them right back. Well, if you're using that sort of a God and justice rationalization or rationale, it speaks to religion, which also speaks to atheism and our rejection of religion. It all ties in together. Wow, there's 3 police cars in a row here. 1, and then 2 police SUVs. 2, 3, and they are hauling ass. Wonder if the president's behind me. This may be the first 3 in a sort of a, what do they call that? I'm drawing a blank. Motorcade. I don't see Trump behind me. Don't you want to talk about other things? Sometimes we'll branch out of atheism altogether just for the hell of it. We did a show on Bitcoin a few months ago, and somebody was like, this is not why I subscribe to this channel. Fine, go subscribe to somebody else. I want to talk about Bitcoin for a week, which is, in some instances, Phil Ferguson and I were talking about it. Some people, not everybody. I can't give you a number of people who even participate and deal in Bitcoin. Many of these people are smart people doing what they do. But there is a group of Bitcoiners that are almost cult-like. It's like the religion of Bitcoin. They're rabid. They if you criticize or question, they just flip out. I don't mind someone saying that they made money in it or they want to defend it as some sort of an investment or a legitimate digital currency. But there are some people. They're like the old school Mac users. And some of the actually current day Mac users. I don't use a Mac, nothing against Mac. I'm sure they're fantastic and fine machines. But if you go and you say, well, look, I had problems today with my PC, with Windows 10, with this program running on a non-Mac computer, the Mac snob shows up. The cult of Mac shows up, and immediately they start chastising you for not kneeling at the altar of Mac. Problem with my phone? You don't have an iPhone? I need an iPhone. You want to know why I don't have an iPhone? Because I hate iTunes. It's one of the least intuitive, most restrictive, most tedious programs ever devised by anyone for any purpose. Why would you set iTunes up the way you set it up? And why would you make it so damn proprietary? Everything has to go through it. Everything has to connect to it. That is not the world in which I live. I produce and distribute audio and video files. Damn it, I want to be able to just plug it in, transfer it over, and listen to it, or watch it, or retrieve it. And I don't want to have to go into iTunes or find a workaround for iTunes. They got great apps. I bought my wife the Apple Watch for Christmas. It's better than the Samsung Watch. Much better. It has more apps. It does more. It's more polished. It's more of a finished product than the Gear. Much more finished product than the Gear. I mean, this is great. It's good, you know. I'll admit that. I still don't want I don't want an iPhone. Don't want a Mac. It's not worth it. Steve Jobs will not carve into my chest and take a piece of my soul. I'm sorry. Or the ghost of Steve Jobs. I'm not going to do it. On principle. I'm not going to do it. I guess I have nothing else of any... you know what? I didn't have anything of importance to say in the first place, but I just wanted to take a few minutes and amuse myself and hopefully, you know, if I give you something to do, if you're looking for an extra piece of content this week. This, of course, won't be a paid patron broadcast. I certainly wouldn't charge anyone for this. It's not like I did an interview with somebody else. That's always an idea. Set some GoPros up and bring somebody in. But I feel like it would be such a rip-off of Carpool Karaoke and some of the other ones that I'd get a lot of shit for. But it'd be interesting to take a car ride. Like if I could take a long commute, be on the highway for an hour with, I don't know. Pick an activist, stick them in the passenger seat, buckle them up, and let's just talk. Like you talk on a regular car ride about whatever came up and happen to have cameras rolling. That might be interesting. And it might be something people would want to watch and or listen to. I don't know. What do you think about that? And who would I get? Would I have to go pick them up? Hardly anyone lives next to Tulsa, Oklahoma. For those who do support me on Patreon, thank you for your support. Thank you for allowing me to do what I do. For those who are not supporters on Patreon, let me encourage you, if you get benefit from the show and you'd like to help support me and my work, it does matter and it does make a difference. Patreon.com/Seth Andrews. Love my sponsors. Love my sponsors. If they're on the show, it's because I really do believe in what they're about, and I felt they were a good fit. Trust me, I turn down a lot more sponsors than ever make it to air. And essentially, I'm saying to them, no, please keep your money. All right, that's tough sometimes. I mean, you do this for a living. I'm sorry, look, please don't give me the revenue. That's tough to say. I've had cruise lines, I've had insurance companies, I've had they just weren't right. So if you hear them on the radio, if you hear Casper or Simple Contacts or any of these, they're on the radio because I really was truly impressed by them. HelloFresh, the great courses, all those. I'm so thankful for them. And you get a commercial-free show if you're a patron supporter. Patreon.com/Seth Andrews. I guess I'm going to crank up a podcast. What do you think? The Atheist Experience, maybe? Or maybe Cognitive Dissonance? I mean, what podcast do you recommend right now? Maybe crank up some tunes. I'm kind of old school, so maybe some old Journey, Kansas Sticks, something like that. And I will see you back here on the next radio podcast, which is going to be the live event from the American Atheists National Convention, Oklahoma City, as I celebrate my 50th birthday, which isn't quite here yet, but we celebrate it in advance with friends. It's kind of a romp through some of the fundamentalist chapters of my life, but it's also an encouragement to other people to seize the day and to make the most of their lives and to, stop living their life to try to keep everybody else comfortable and to be who they are at the volume they choose without apology. Trust me, the religious people do it all the time. They expect us to be quiet about our atheism. Don't make me uncomfortable. And especially as I get older, I think, screw a whole bunch of that. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be me at the volume I choose. No one else gets to determine my path, my future, my dreams, my goals, my identity, my sexuality, my belief system or lack of religious belief system. No one else determines that. My life, I get to live on my terms. That's what next week's going to be about. I think you'll find encouragement. I think you'll enjoy yourself. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you then.